Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers podcast. Today I'm joined by Greg Wilk, who is CTO of Fuse Energy. Fuse are relatively new player to the market now, some 3 years in the game, having built next gen integrated energy supply platform. We're going to be talking more about that in some more details, which I'm looking forward to getting into. Some sexy stuff around their own app, real-time billing engine, and we'll be breaking down all of this for you guys. Greg, big thanks. How are you?
Pleasure to be here.
Good man. How's the new role coming along?
Super exciting. Learn something new every day.
Love it. Love it. Do you want to give us a bit of background into you, your experience, and then segue quite nicely into Fuse Energy, who are Fuse, and what's the mission that you're all on?
Sure, absolutely. Let's see here. So, born and raised in Poland, um, got to attend an American International High School in Hungary, of all places, where I acquired this accent. Um, got to study in the UK, went into finance, starting with an internship in the US, and then sort of after university going into high frequency trading for a couple of years. And don't get me wrong, I like adding liquidity to the markets as much as the next guy. But I always wanted to build product, build a team, build a company from scratch, which is what I get to do here at Fuse every day. Yeah, surrounded by some of the most talented developers that I've had the pleasure to work with. Um, I've hired them from the likes of Jump Trading, Citadel, Jane Street. So it's a nest of high sort of talent driven, right, smart people. And what we are building is your vertically integrated next generation energy major, right? So what does that mean now, and what is the mission later on? So right now we're buying land, we're building out industrial scale solar panel installations. We're doing the hedging in house as well. So we're members of an exchange, right, connected to the markets and trading. Because we've got customers on the supply side, we've got production on the generation side, and the structure of the market in energy is way different compared to equities or futures, where I sort of came from, right? In energy, demand and supply must always match, right? On the sort of national grid level. You can't have too much demand because then you get brownouts and blackouts. Governments don't like that, and you can't have too much production because you get fires, presumably, although there's like many levels of redundancy, so that probably doesn't happen. In any case, demand supply must also always match, so we need to buy the excess from the market if we don't generate enough, and we need to sell our excess if we don't, if we overproduce. um, yeah, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into designing our sexy app, right, and shipping that. Um, we believe we've got something that's very special, right? We've got 24/7 support, everything at your fingertips. I personally couldn't stand being put on hold for hours on end to change a tariff. Those days are long gone. Um, yes, there's the way I think about it is we're building a very tall spire, right? And we need to spend enough time building out the foundations. So so right now the engineering team is focused on the billing engine, a real-time billing engine, which is the first in the market as far as we know, which I'm sure we can talk about more in depth later. Um, but yeah, that is sort of building the deep expertise in the industry that we need to succeed ultimately.
Great intro. Good insights. You're right. Even when we go back to the talent point, the talent density in the business is what sparked my curiosity. How have you been able to attract uh, what seems like from the outside really, really smart, good people? What are you building? And creating your own billing platform, and we're going to talk about it, makes a lot of sense. as to the bigger Fuse mission. Great founding team as well, from what I can see. Alan's background, amongst others. So, no doubts in my mind at all. You guys and girls are on a bit of a journey to do some great things.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's actually painfully obvious how do you attract the best talent? It is by keeping the bar high, right? Smart, talented, driven people like to work with other smart, talented, driven people. And personally, I've conducted 600 hours of interviews, and our team stands at 22 engineers right now. Right, it's a very very low pass rate. It is painful. It's a lot of time investment, right, to craft that team, but ultimately it pays for itself. Um, the the job of a manager becomes very easy, right? Those people manage themselves, and that's exactly what you want to get people to do their best work, right? You want to give them as much ownership, maximize responsibility, and just let them run.
100%. I want to talk about something that you said that stands out, that I know this is part of Fuse's mission: building the next generation energy major. Why are you building it? What's it going to take? What are you aware of the challenges that might be? Download all of that good stuff on me.
Absolutely. So, is there a more important sector than energy? Like, question. It's hard to think so. First of all, there's no such thing as an energy poor developed country, right? As energy consumption per capita goes up, human well being goes up, right? We want to consume more energy, not less. And as a point of reference, like people in New York consume 4 times the amount of energy than people in the UK. Then you get the national security concerns, right? With Europe not being energy independent, that is a huge concern. Um, you the cost of energy is an input to every single industry there is, right? The cost of energy in the UK is, um, I don't know, say 35 cents per kilowatt hour. In the US, it's half that. In China, it's quarter that. So we're playing at a disadvantage, right? And there are these novel business models, such as the long forgotten art of manufacturing, that would be very nice to have back.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, so that's sort of the I guess, and then we're running this crazy fossil fuel experiment as well, right? At the same time. Um, so you want to transition to renewable resources as quickly as possible. So all of these factors make energy an extremely important sector, but for some reason it's not sexy. It's not a talent magnet, and I'm not necessarily sure why. And selfishly, I would like us to do what Uber did to taxis, right? Taxis were not a sexy line of work or a sexy business. They are now. Um, and what was the second part of your question?
Oh, um, I'm thinking about how that probably ties into the mission that you're on.
Yes, absolutely. So now where we come in is building the next generation energy major, right? Doing all of these things in tandem. The it is very different to think about where the challenges come from for a company that is being built from scratch versus a company that's already established, right? If you join a business that's been running for a couple of years, you sort of go into a very narrow crevice of something and optimize that, right? The challenge in here comes from the breadth of work. um, so there's this Jack Dorsey quote, right? Of make every detail perfect and limit the number of details. It is very important to be selective as to what we actually tackle. Um, and right now we're focusing on the foundations, focusing on the billing engine. So I can talk a little bit more about that. So the high level, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're right at the foundation level. We've touched on a billing engine, we've touched on a really sexy app, and you've spoken about the mission that you're on, the geopolitical ties that energy could have, and the impacts that energy can have positively and negatively. So, we're in a prime space. Like, outlay the engineering thinking of the business here. What are Fuse trying to build for the market, for the people, and almost like break those segments down and help us understand where you can, like what you're trying, the engineering that you're trying to do inside the business.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, lots of things happening in parallel. Some of which I will talk about, some of which I will keep secret. Um, it is about sequencing what we ship, right? The reality is that there is quite a bit of activation energy required to ship an energy business in the first place, right? So we've spent some time just reaching product parity, and then exceeding that, right? Offering better features, offering a better platform. And ultimately, the vision here is for us to build a technology platform where we can replicate that across many different fuel types and many different markets. Right. So what we're building as a foundation is a generalized model of the energy world, right? That we will um, apply. And then I can talk about the different aspects, right, that go into that. So I've already touched on yeah, the structure of the markets. In energy, what you get is something called settlement. And let me describe what is settlement versus what is billing. So billing is what the customer's on the hook for with regards to the supplier, right? So it's the energy that they are going to pay for. And then settlement is what the supplier is on the hook for with respect to the settlement body. Let's call it the grid, right? Um, so what you want to do is you want to be fair towards your customers, and you want to replicate the logic here, right? Whatever you are on the hook for as the supplier to the supply to the settlement body, you want to charge the customer. Um, and the settlement process is ancient, right? It is the classic path dependent monstrosity that you get by making a ton of different decisions throughout the decades and ending up with something very batch based, very sort of human manual exception driven, um, which we untangled, right? Went really deep into reading all of the regulation, making sure that we understand the rules, like reverse engineering some of that, right? And making it real time so that our customers can start baking a cake and see on the app directly how much that's setting them back, right? Um, so that's billing. There's more to this, right? So there's logistics, for instance, right? We as a supplier are yeah our we need the ability to install smart meters in people's homes, right? We need the ability to install smart chargers in people's homes. So it's about routing. It's about how do you deploy your workforce of boots on the ground engineers this time that are electrical and can sign for stuff, um, to get to people's homes, right? And the experience there is sort of Uber-esque. You seamlessly order the install from the app. You get a notification when the engineer is arriving, right? And that entire process is seamless. Um, so, yeah, and then we're going to be going to demand response as well. So as renewable resource adoption goes up, the sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, and um, and that presents a risk, both to the price of electricity as well as the fossil fuel nature of it. Right now, the replacement are peaker plants. So what you get is a fossil fuel machine, right, that is turned on and off whenever needed. What would be ideal, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly is if we modulate the demand. And and that can be done through incentive programs, which is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be launching a crypto coin to incentivize that behavior in customers. Um, Part of it is human behavior, but that is hard to change. A lot of it is going to be automated. So we're going to be offering the best EV product in the market, right? For instance, the smart chargers that we've installed in your house, you're going to get the best rates. So we're going to turn the smart charger on and off throughout the night, right? So you get the most green, the most the cheapest prices, and then we can also um, essentially turn this into a little bit of an options market, right? Where you have a little bit of extra juice that you can pump into the battery as a demand response activity, or a little bit less, right? If the customer chooses to opt into that. So that's going to be coming later this year. But that's like sort of like a landscape of some of the features that I've described here. I can go more in depth into any particular engineering challenges if you wish.
Yeah. We will go into some engineering challenges on the billing engine. I love the financial services trading concepts that you've brought to the renewable energy space. I actually think it works really well. There's huge adoption from investors that really believe in Fuse's mission for sure. I think that was pretty widespread news. So I've got no doubts in my mind that you guys and girls are really going to take off. Talk to us about some of those challenges in the billing engine. Get some engineers' juices flowing that are listening to, what's going on under the hood at Fuse. What are people likely to see? What 22 of your engineers likely to see on a day-to-day basis if they're working inside of this?
Absolutely. So, right. So, what does it take to translate something that's batch based into an event driven system? Right. It requires you to actually know how to compute every specific component of it. Sort of really go deep and create those algorithms. The fact of the matter is that a lot of this data is not available ahead of time. So it's only published retroactively. So we really needed to go in and reverse engineer that. And I can talk to some examples. Let's say, yeah, so I was talking about settlement and billing, right? We want to match those up. The energy markets settle half hourly in the UK. Okay, that means that you get one price for the entire country for the wholesale component of electricity. Okay, um, and then you can bring in dual rate tariffs into the mix, where you get a switching behavior where you pay a different rate at night and a different rate during the day. Okay, that switching behavior would be really nice if it were half hourly aligned. Okay. But because of the path dependency, because of the UK not being the only country in the world, right, you import other meters from other markets, and those aren't half hourly aligned, right? So what do? Well, there are some sensible approaches to this, but then there's the settlement body's choice of how to handle it, right? So this is the path dependency that I'm talking about. They probably hired a bunch of consultants and concocted this root mean squared algorithm, right, to shift those bounds around that we needed to reverse engineer. And then in that, so discovered that there's a bug in their algorithm, right? During one day, the clock change day in October, there's 1 hour where volume's not measured, right, for a certain set of meters. So in theory, that could mean that you go ham on mining Bitcoin for free. Uh, that's that. Yeah, that's one example.
Yeah, that's a pretty dangerous example, in fairness, for a lot of people.
Yes, and then it's about modeling the domain well, right? It's about um, there's always this balance in software engineering that you don't want to prematurely generalize, because what you can end up with is a generalization in the wrong direction than what you actually need, right? So this is a careful balancing act to be struck. But at this stage, we're quite knowledgeable in the in the billing space, and we are lifting that abstraction level so that we can apply this to other markets, right? And to different fuel types. So we've gotten the gas license recently, and a lot of UK homes are still powered by gas. So it's like not an option not to also offer it, because it's a worse product offering. 70% of UK households are gas powered. So what we're doing is we're modeling these relationships, like what an MPAN and an MPRN are. So these are these administrative names for supply points, essentially, and we're creating internal identifiers that are a generalization of that, right? And then you create agnostic components of the entire system that can work with any, right? um, and it's about methodically going through and and creating these modules that are plug and play, right? That you can configure. There are different settlement types. So even in the UK alone, there's something called half hourly settlement and non-half hourly settlement, where um, yeah, actually, if you think about it, non-half hourly settlement is kind of crazy. So the problem statement is you get cumulative meter reads from a human, right?
Yeah.
Spaced, I don't know how often you take your meter reading, but personally, never before joining Fuse.
Yeah. I think I think it's every 3 months.
Well, that's better. That's better than the average.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, so yeah, very hard problem. You get these meter readings that are 3 months apart, but oftentimes 6 or 12, right? And what you want to do is you want to apportion the volume from the meter advance into half hourly buckets, because that's what you're going to be settled on and that's what you want to bill for, right? So it's this game of averages where you run this regression problem over a whole bunch of variables, including your geographical location, your time of the week, right? Seasonality, temperature. So a lot of that comes into play there, and you essentially draw this curvy line, right, of what your average shape is, and that is non-half hourly settlement. So it's best guess. It's averages on top of averages on top of averages, which makes the market really inefficient if you think about it. Any deviation from that is socialized. It's a socialized cost, right? If I am a customer that consumes more energy during peak hours, then you're paying for it in the toils, in the tolls, sorry, that are the non wholesale electricity cost component of the tariff, which can go even above 50%. So, what you want to do generally is move into a more efficient market. And that is what the UK is attempting to do with half hourly settlements, where you get smart meters, right? So, those are the ones that we can pull real time data from on a half hourly basis, where you pay for the exact half hours that you've used. And that's exactly what you get in our product. You pay for exactly what you've used.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, great. How challenging has it been for a new business dealing with UK regulation and trying to build solutions around UK regulation?
Yeah, very interesting question. So the energy sector is probably the second most heavily regulated sector after finance. Um, so we needed to make sure that we check every box, right? And we're generally very risk averse in that department. You need to complete a whole bunch of pilot tests before we go live. And I think, well, it depends on your activation energy and motivation, right? It was never a question for us. We just went all ham and got certification everywhere where we needed to. We actually have way more certifications, right? So we've been talking about the supplier business, but there's also a meter operator business that we also operate, right? That is a entirely different certification and company, and that is what allows us to uh, offer that bespoke installation service to install people's smart meters. Um, but how difficult is is a difficult answer question for me to answer, right? It wasn't easy, and I think the testament to it not being easy is there's no other entrance in the market
Yeah.
except for us.
I was going to say, and even more challenges will come with pulling the abstraction layer off, looking at different types of energy that you want to offer and expanding into different markets. I appreciate that the first part has no doubt been a real learning curve on what to look for and um, what to probably avoid. But pulling back that layer and understanding how you actually pivot and grow your business further, you've probably learned some really valuable lessons as a new
Absolutely.
business in a new space.
To be honest, this is where Alan's experience shines, right? Because Revolut became a machine for acquiring banking licenses all around the world. So we can, uh, you know, piggyback off of that experience and build our own in-house license acquisition operation for energy markets this time.
Interesting. I won't ask you too many questions, but that's probably an interesting insight of how to move fast in markets that you don't have all the answers to just yet. There's a really interesting part that I think to your journey that you wanted to talk about as well. No product managers inside of Fuse. And you've got quite an interesting autonomous engineering culture that you've cultivated. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about that decision that was made and why it's really
Absolutely.
working for you.
Absolutely. So let's see. Maybe I can pull this all the way back and say that I'm it's kind of heartbreaking to see where Europe is compared to where the States are after the great financial crisis, right? Europe has trailed quite a lot when it comes to technology adoption, when it comes to GDP growth. There's like a bunch of different rationalizations and explanations for that. Some of it like is access to capital. Some of that is like reserve currency status, right? Uh, Whatever. I've come to believe that some of it is actually the old management guard of European companies that doesn't understand how great software is built, right? There's like an obvious insight that uh, your light went off. There's an obvious insight that Silicon Valley has long known, which is you want to have an engineering led organization, right? You want engineers to define the product direction and the direction that the company goes in. People do their best work, right? They can apply their passion and they can apply their hard work to areas that they have autonomy over, that they own, that they're responsible for maximally, right? And that is exactly what we do here at Fuse. So there's, as you've mentioned, zero product managers. Everything we ship is a passionate discussion between engineering and design, and um, and Alan's very involved in those discussions as well. Um, yeah, I think that's the answer there.
I think that's a really interesting perspective. Going back to the Europe and US conversation, big conversation on that at the moment. Would you say it's fair to say that Alan, founding team at Fuse, have a vision of what they would like to do in the energy space? And it's about hiring really smart people, evidently, from the time that you've invested in looking to hire the right people and identifying what skills you're looking for, and almost let these really smart, really well educated people solve these really difficult challenges in an archaic market, and you pave your way for innovation. Is that a fair assessment of what I've learned so far?
Absolutely. And a key part of this is this unrelenting ambition, right? So our only company value is never settle. It is kind of heartbreaking to see, Nvidia, one company, have a higher market cap than the entirety of FTSE 100 combined, right? Or the failure of Europe to mint a single tech business that is valued over 100 billion, where the US is what, on its like sixth trillion-dollar company, tech business, but depending on the day. So it is about that ambition, right? It's about that, yeah, pursuing a huge slice of the pie and enabling smart, driven, motivated people to do it. Basically, doing whatever it takes.
Love it. Good. Tell us a little bit about where, for what you can, where the business is going over the next 12 months. What are people likely to see from Fuse if they're to start using Fuse, interacting with Fuse?
Yes, yes. I've already mentioned some of that, right? So there's the two there's the install product, the best in class EV offering that we're going to be launching very shortly. And then towards the end of the year, it's going to be the demand response business. Um, so maybe to talk a little bit more about the demand response incentive program, it's what you would call a VPP. It's a virtual power plant. So it's a sort of virtual aggregation over a bunch of households that can act as a peaker plant. um, and and it's ultimately about controlling those assets, right? That has the most impact. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting to people's thermostats at home, right? Connecting to people's smart chargers, and um, and essentially paying them a little baseline of crypto as an option premium, if you will, right? And then us either drawing down that power or giving you that power is the exercise of said option. So you do nothing, lean back, right? Make the energy grid more efficient, and get a slice of the pie.
Love it. EV, crypto, no doubt never settling, no doubt more innovation over the next 12 months. It's been great to learn about the business, some engineering challenges. I want to say a massive thanks for coming to join us and talk more about the Fuse journey, talk more about what you're building and what you're uncovering. For people listening, please go and check out Fuse, go and check out Greg's background, go and check out his X account. He's posting about what being a new CTO is looking like. And they've got a careers page, which I'm going to put below. Greg, massive thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
For people listening, of course, all your likes, shares, subscribership, as I always say, keeps this little ecosystem buzzing around. So continue to do that. And thanks from me. Thanks from Greg at Fuse. And stay tuned for more. Thanks a lot. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Engineers is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Engineers.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.